When Armageddon exploded onto screens, critics mocked it, fans adored it, and scientists cringed. Behind the spectacle was chaos, risk, and cinematic luck that nobody could have predicted. From contractual obligations to impossible physics and a shocking Criterion Collection twist, the making of this blockbuster was just as wild as the asteroid headed for Earth. These are the secrets Michael Bay never wanted you to find out about one of the most entertaining disaster films ever made. But before we dive into Bruce Willis saving the world, let's talk about how Disney declared war on Steven Spielberg. Number 1. Disney's revenge on Deep Impact. The race to destroy an asteroid wasn't just happening on screen, it was happening between two major studios. When Disney executives heard that Steven Spielberg was developing Deep Impact with DreamWorks, they immediately went into battle mode. The studio was determined to win what insiders called the asteroid race, and they weren't going to play it safe. Disney poured an enormous budget into making Armageddon the louder, flashier, and more explosive disaster film. Where Deep Impact aimed for scientific accuracy and emotional drama, Disney wanted pure spectacle and adrenaline. The gamble paid off spectacularly. Armageddon dominated the box office, earning nearly double what Deep Impact made worldwide. Disney proved that when it came to saving the world from space rocks, audiences preferred rock drillers and explosions over quiet contemplation. Number 2. Real NASA spacesuits on set. Authenticity came at a staggering price for this production. Before cameras even rolled, the cast trained with and wore genuine NASA spacesuits, valued at over $3 million each. These weren't Hollywood replicas, they were the real deal, borrowed directly from the space program with strict conditions attached. Each suit required dedicated handlers and round-the-clock security presence on set. The realism translated beautifully to the screen, giving the space sequences a level of detail that audiences could feel. But the experience wasn't glamorous for the performers. The cast frequently joked that wearing the suits felt like being trapped inside walking ovens. The internal temperature would climb uncomfortably high during takes, making even simple movements exhausting. It was authentic NASA equipment, creating authentic NASA discomfort. Number 3. Bruce Willis was forced into it. The biggest action star of the 1990s didn't exactly volunteer for this mission. Bruce Willis found himself attached to Armageddon not through choice, but through legal obligation. After a previous film project collapsed, Willis owed Disney several movies as part of a settlement agreement. What started as essentially a penalty project became something nobody expected. Willis approached the role professionally, bringing his trademark charisma to Harry Stamper. The irony wasn't lost on anyone involved. The film he was forced to make became one of the biggest commercial triumphs of his entire career. The box office success turned a contractual burden into a blessing. Armageddon solidified Willis as not just an action hero, but a leading man who could carry massive emotional weight alongside the explosions. What could have been a resentful obligation instead became a defining moment in his filmography. Number 4. Ben Affleck's $20,000 smile. Not every transformation for this film involved special effects and explosions. Michael Bay had a very specific vision for how his heroes should look, and apparently, that vision included perfect teeth. The director took one look at Ben Affleck's natural smile and decided it wasn't quite heroic enough for a man saving the planet. Bay personally arranged and paid for $20,000 worth of cosmetic dental work to get Affleck's teeth camera ready. The young actor went through the procedures, emerging with a smile that met Bay's exacting standards. It was a detail that most audiences would never consciously notice. Affleck later laughed about the experience in interviews, joking that Bay cared far more about his dental appearance than the actual science of blowing up asteroids. That $20,000 smile became part of one of the summer's biggest blockbusters, making it possibly the most expensive dental work in cinema history. Number 5. The shuttle that took off in space. One scene stands above all others as the most scientifically impossible moment in the film. In a sequence that made physicists everywhere shake their heads, a space shuttle launches directly off the surface of an asteroid, it defying every known law of physics in spectacular fashion. There's no launch pad, no atmosphere, and certainly no logical explanation. Bay openly admitted the scene was completely absurd from a scientific standpoint, but when the visual effects team showed him what it would look like, he made an instant decision. It looked too cool to cut, he explained, prioritizing spectacle over any semblance of reality. The shuttle launch became iconic, precisely because it was so brazenly impossible. It represented everything critics hated and fans loved about Bay's style, logic taking a back seat to pure visual excitement. That philosophy would define not just Armageddon, but an entire era of action blockbusters. Number 6. NASA uses it for training. The space agency found an unexpected use for this scientifically questionable blockbuster. NASA's management program famously screens Armageddon as part of their training process for new recruits, but they're not showing it as an example of good science, quite the opposite. The task given to trainees is deceptively simple: identify every scientific mistake in the film. It sounds straightforward until you realize just how many errors are packed into the runtime. NASA officials have documented more than 160 separate scientific inaccuracies throughout the movie. This tongue-in-cheek exercise serves a serious purpose, teaching recruits to spot flawed logic under pressure and question assumptions. The film that made scientists cringe in theaters became an invaluable educational tool. It's the ultimate irony that a movie mocked for its scientific failures now helps train the brightest minds in space exploration. Number 7. Michael Bay's hidden cameo. Directors sneaking into their own films is nothing new, but Bay's appearance required a sharp eye to spot. The filmmaker briefly appears as a NASA scientist in one quick shot, creating a little Easter egg for eagle-eyed fans. It's easy to miss if you're not specifically looking for it. Bay later joked about his reasoning for including himself in the scene. He explained that he wanted to supervise the madness from inside his own movie, staying close to the action even when the cameras were rolling. It was typical Bay humor, making himself part of the explosive chaos he orchestrated. The cameo became a fun detail for fans to discover on repeat viewings. In a film filled with massive set pieces and explosive action, this tiny moment of directorial self-insertion added a personal touch. It proved that even in the biggest blockbusters, filmmakers can't resist leaving their mark on screen. Number 8. Willis' emotional scene was real. The film's most heartbreaking moment came from genuine emotion rather than acting technique. For Harry Stamper's farewell scene with his daughter, Bruce Willis used photographs of his real daughters to bring authentic feelings to his performance. The connection wasn't manufactured, it was deeply personal. The decision to film this emotionally charged sequence on the very first day of production was unusual. Most directors would save such a pivotal scene until the cast had time to settle into their roles. But starting with this raw, vulnerable moment set an unexpectedly heartfelt tone for the entire production. That genuine emotion shone through in every frame. Amid all of Michael Bay's explosions and spectacle, this single scene reminded audiences that real human stakes existed beneath the chaos. Willis didn't just play a father saying goodbye, he channeled the real fear of leaving his own children behind. Number 9. Earthly asteroid landscapes. Creating an alien world didn't require computers or green screens for this production. The asteroid's surface was actually filmed in South Dakota's Badlands, a rugged landscape that needed minimal alteration. The production team covered the terrain with grit and pumped in fog to create an otherworldly atmosphere that looked convincingly extraterrestrial. The practical effects approach created stunning visuals that held up remarkably well on screen. Real Earth, real rocks, and real weather conditions gave the asteroid sequences a tangible weight that digital effects of the era couldn't match. The harsh filming environment pushed cast and crew to their limits. Some members of the production joked they were filming inside a volcano due to the extreme conditions. The discomfort was real, but so was the payoff. Audiences got asteroid scenes that felt genuinely dangerous and alien. Number 10. Expensive last-minute reshoots. Just weeks before the scheduled release date, Michael Bay received unexpected orders from the studio. Disney executives wanted more destruction, more spectacle, more reasons for audiences to buy tickets. Bay went back to work, shooting entirely new sequences of global catastrophe designed specifically for the promotional campaign. These last-minute additions cost millions of dollars and created serious time pressure, but the studio believed that bigger disasters in the trailers would translate to bigger box office returns. Bay delivered exactly what they wanted: cities being destroyed, tsunamis hitting coastlines, and chaos erupting worldwide. The gamble proved brilliantly effective. Those promotional sequences became some of the most iconic imagery associated with the entire film. The expensive reshoots paid for themselves many times over at the box office. Number 11. Post-9/11 censorship. The tragic events of September 2001 forced an unexpected change to how the film could be shown. After the attacks, television broadcasters began quietly editing out, specific scenes of New York City being destroyed by falling debris. What once seemed like harmless disaster movie spectacle suddenly felt far too close to real trauma. The resemblance to actual events made those particular sequences uncomfortable for audiences trying to process their grief. Networks made the decision to cut or alter these moments without fanfare or official announcements. It was a quiet acknowledgement that entertainment had collided with reality in the most devastating way. This subtle censorship altered how an entire generation remembered the film. Viewers who saw Armageddon on television after 2001 experienced a different version than theatrical audiences had seen just 3 years earlier. Number 12. Disney's biggest non-animated hit. The financial numbers told an incredible success story for the studio. With $553 million earned worldwide, Armageddon became Disney's most profitable live-action film of the entire 1990s. It was a massive achievement that exceeded even the studio's optimistic projections. The film proved a crucial point about blockbuster filmmaking. Big emotions and bigger explosions could conquer both critics and audiences simultaneously. Disney had taken an enormous financial risk on spectacle over substance, and the box office validated their approach completely. Armageddon demonstrated that emotional storytelling could coexist with pure spectacle. Audiences didn't have to choose between heartfelt moments and explosive action. They wanted both. This balance of sentiment and destruction became a blueprint for countless blockbusters that followed. Number 13. Jason Isaacs nearly lost his job. Working with Michael Bay could be an intimidating experience, as one British actor discovered firsthand. Jason Isaacs, who played Dr. Quincy, genuinely believed he would be terminated after Bay publicly scolded him in front of the entire crew. The moment was harsh enough that Isaacs thought his film career might be over. The actor later described the experience as terrifying but unforgettable, giving insight into just how intense the atmosphere on set could become. Bay's demanding directorial style didn't leave much room for mistakes or second chances. Despite the rocky encounter, Isaacs kept his role and delivered a memorable performance. The incident became a story he told in interviews, illustrating the high-pressure environment that defined this production. It showed that surviving a Michael Bay film required thick skin and unwavering professionalism. Number 14. The crew nearly suffocated on set. Creating an otherworldly atmosphere came with genuine physical danger for the production team. Bay pumped the asteroid set full of thick smoke and dust to make it look properly alien and hostile. The visual effect worked perfectly for the cameras, but it created a serious health hazard for everyone working inside. Visibility dropped so dramatically that crew members couldn't see more than a few feet in front of them. The air quality deteriorated to the point where respirators became necessary equipment rather than optional safety gear. What looked incredible on film felt like surviving an actual sandstorm for those trapped in the haze. The finished footage justified the harsh conditions from a visual standpoint. The asteroid sequences looked authentically dangerous and otherworldly, precisely because the environment was genuinely hostile. Number 15. Liv Tyler's casting was a gamble. The studio had serious doubts about entrusting such a major role to someone so young. At just 20 years old, Liv Tyler was relatively inexperienced for a blockbuster of this magnitude. Disney executives worried whether she could handle the emotional weight required to anchor the film's romantic storyline. Producer Jerry Bruckheimer fought passionately for Tyler against studio resistance. He called her the movie's heart, recognizing that her natural warmth and vulnerability would balance Bay's explosive action sequences. Bruckheimer believed the risk was worth taking, trusting his instinct over the studio's concerns. Tyler's performance proved Bruckheimer absolutely right. She brought genuine tenderness and emotional depth to every scene, creating the film's emotional center amid all the chaos. Her presence reminded audiences that real human relationships were at stake, making the mission feel personal rather than abstract. Number 16. The script had 9 writers. Crafting the screenplay for this blockbuster was anything but a streamlined process. No fewer than 9 different writers, including future Star Wars director J.J. Abrams, contributed to Armageddon at various stages. Pages were being rewritten on a daily basis as Bay constantly demanded new jokes, fresh dialogue, and of course, more explosions. The production schedule didn't allow for traditional script development. Bay's relentless tinkering meant actors often received new pages the morning of shooting, forcing them to memorize changes on the fly. The writers worked around the clock, trying to keep up with the director's endless stream of ideas and revisions. The final screenplay became a patchwork creation, representing every voice that touched it. This collaborative chaos somehow resulted in a script that balanced humor, heart, and spectacle, even if the process nearly drove everyone involved to exhaustion. Number 17. Michael Bay knew it was unrealistic. The director was fully aware of the film's biggest logical problem from the very beginning. Bay later openly admitted that NASA could never realistically train oil drillers to become astronauts faster than simply teaching existing astronauts how to drill. He called the entire premise science fantasy rather than science fiction. But Bay had a clear defense for this massive plot hole. He argued that Armageddon was designed to make audiences feel rather than think. The emotional journey of blue-collar workers saving the world mattered more than whether the scenario could actually happen in reality. This philosophy defined the entire production approach. Bay understood he was making a roller coaster, not a documentary. The film prioritized emotional beats and spectacular visuals over scientific accuracy, trusting that audiences would embrace the fantasy if the characters felt real enough. Number 18. Affleck's legendary commentary. The Criterion Collection DVD release included an unexpected bonus feature that became legendary in its own right. Ben Affleck recorded a commentary track where he humorously mocked the movie's logic, questioned its numerous plot holes, and even poked fun at his own performance. His self-aware humor surprised fans who expected typical promotional material. Affleck didn't hold back in his criticism, treating the commentary like a casual conversation with friends watching a ridiculous movie. He pointed out absurdities in the science, laughed at dramatic moments that didn't quite work, and generally treated the film with affectionate mockery. Fans loved his brutal honesty so much that the commentary became a cult classic separate from the film itself. People sought out the Criterion edition specifically to hear Affleck's takedown of his own blockbuster. It proved that audiences appreciate self-awareness, especially when someone can laugh at themselves. Number 19. Critics despised it. The critical reception was brutally harsh across the board. Roger Ebert famously called it a brain-damaged spectacle, while other reviewers dubbed it Bayhem incarnate, a term specifically coined to describe Michael Bay's particular brand of explosive excess. Professional critics seemed to compete over who could write the most scathing review, but audience reaction told a completely different story. Regular moviegoers packed theaters and embraced the film with genuine enthusiasm, ignoring critical warnings entirely. They didn't care about scientific accuracy or sophisticated storytelling. They wanted to watch Bruce Willis save the world. That massive split between professional critics and paying audiences made Armageddon the ultimate guilty pleasure of the decade. It became a cultural dividing line between those who valued technical filmmaking and those who simply wanted entertaining spectacle. Number 20. Hidden Aerosmith Easter egg. Sharp-eyed viewers could spot a deliberate visual reference connecting the film to its famous soundtrack. In one bar scene, a neon love sign appears prominently in the background, lifted directly from the music video for Aerosmith's I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. It was a subtle nod that most audiences completely missed. The Easter egg gained extra meaning through Liv Tyler's real-life connection to the band. Her father, Steven Tyler, fronted Aerosmith and sang the power ballad that became inseparable from the film itself. The hidden reference was a playful acknowledgement of that family connection woven into the movie's fabric. These kinds of small details showed that despite the chaos and spectacle, the filmmakers occasionally added personal touches. The sign didn't advance the plot or add anything essential, but it rewarded observant fans who knew both the film and the music video. Number 21. The meaning behind 5 words. One line of dialogue carried unexpected emotional weight throughout the entire film. Harry Stamper's recurring phrase, "I want to hear 5 words, I'll never do that again," started as a simple father's reprimand but evolved into something far more meaningful. The line symbolized his redemption as both a father and a leader. Throughout the movie, Harry uses these words to discipline his crew and protect his daughter from AJ's reckless behavior. But by the film's climax, the phrase takes on deeper significance as Harry himself faces the ultimate decision. It becomes a moment of self-reflection about choices, consequences, and sacrifice. This represents one of the few instances where Armageddon delivers genuine emotion amidst all the explosive chaos. The 5 words weren't just a catchphrase, they encapsulated Harry's entire character arc. Number 22. The real-life Dr. Quincy. Jason Isaacs' scientist character had roots in actual NASA personnel. Dr. Quincy was modeled after a real NASA advisor who helped consult on the film's terminology and scientific procedures. The consultant provided detailed information about protocols, equipment names, and how mission control actually functions during space operations. The irony was impossible to ignore. Much of this expert's carefully researched input was discarded in favor of pure spectacle. Bay and the writers cherry-picked the technical details that sounded good, while abandoning anything that might slow down the action. This dynamic served as a fitting metaphor for the entire production approach. NASA's expertise was welcomed when it added authenticity to dialogue, but ignored when physics got in the way of a cool explosion. The real-life consultant essentially watched his contributions get transformed into science fantasy. Number 23. The Criterion Collection Mystery. In one of cinema's most bizarre and unexpected decisions, Armageddon was added to the prestigious Criterion Collection. This announcement stunned film enthusiasts who associated Criterion exclusively with artistic masterpieces like Seven Samurai and foreign art films. The inclusion seemed to violate everything the collection supposedly represented. Fans debated endlessly whether this was a joke, a mistake, or a legitimate choice. Criterion defended their decision by explaining they preserved films based on cultural impact rather than purely artistic merit. The controversy highlighted changing attitudes about what deserves preservation and study. Armageddon undeniably influenced blockbuster filmmaking and captured a specific moment in American cinema. Whether that made it worthy of Criterion treatment remains one of the most contentious debates in film collecting circles. Number 24. Global hype and apocalyptic marketing. Disney launched one of the most aggressive and comprehensive marketing campaigns of the entire decade. The studio purchased expensive Super Bowl advertising slots, created tie-in promotions with McDonald's, and plastered world-spanning posters across every major city. The saturation was impossible to escape. The marketing strategy treated Armageddon not as a simple movie release, but as a global event requiring maximum attention. Television spots emphasized the stakes. This wasn't just entertainment, it was the fate of the entire planet. The apocalyptic messaging tapped into millennium-era anxieties about the year 2000 approaching. This campaign became a blueprint for how studios would market summer tentpole releases for years afterward. Armageddon proved that overwhelming promotional presence could generate unstoppable momentum. The film conquered the globe before audiences even saw a single frame. Number 25. The Disneyland Paris Explosion Ride. The film's impact extended beyond theaters into actual theme park attractions. Disneyland Paris created Armageddon Les Effets Spéciaux, an immersive experience that recreated the movie's meteor storm using shaking floors, heat effects, and practical fire. Guests walked through a recreation of a space station under bombardment. The attraction put visitors directly into the film's most intense moments. Explosions erupted around them, debris appeared to fall from above, and the entire structure shook violently. It delivered the chaotic sensory overload that defined Bay's filmmaking style. Guests loved the chaos and intensity until the attraction permanently closed in 2019 after 2 decades of operation. Even in its final years, the ride proved that Armageddon could still literally blow people away. It stood as a testament to how deeply the film had embedded itself into popular culture beyond just cinema. Critics called it dumb, scientists called it impossible, but audiences called it unforgettable. Armageddon became a symbol of everything wild and emotional about 90s Hollywood, flawed, fearless, and endlessly entertaining. From Bruce Willis's contractual obligation turning into career gold, to Ben Affleck's $20,000 smile, to NASA using it as a training tool for spotting mistakes, the film's legacy extends far beyond its runtime. It proved that spectacle and heart could coexist, that plot holes don't matter when emotions run high, and that sometimes the most criticized films become the most beloved. If you enjoyed discovering these secrets, hit like and subscribe. Tell us in the comments which Armageddon secret surprised you the most.